Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to No Filter Gen Z, the show where we are unfiltered, uncensored, and unapologetically real about our beliefs and values. Hashtag no filter. My name is Camden. I'm your host, and today we're going to get into something that's kind of toxic, in my opinion. It's kind of controversial. Some people think it's empowering, but we're going to get into the women's feminist, the new age feminist movement. What a lot of women are pushing today and wanting to get, I'll just read a few things for you that are kind of coming from this. One is women can do any job just as good and better than men. Another one is women don't need men. And then some extreme ones are some women hate all men. And that's all coming from this new movement. So we'll see how that ends up. But I wanted to bring on a guest today that might give us a good perspective on this. Someone that's a younger person, a woman, that we could get a good perspectives from. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Lauren Dalton to the show. How you doing, Lauren?
Hello. Good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for coming on. I just want to ask you a few questions about this. First of all, what is important to you as a young woman, a college student in this day and age?
Well, I believe when it comes to relationships and the friendships that I have, I don't like those big labels. Like, I wouldn't consider myself a feminist, but I do see the importance in having like my girls with me and getting perspectives from girls and like having that bond that we should have because we're girls. But then when we have like those crazy, like big ideas that now men are bad just because they're not girls, then that's totally gross to me. I don't get that.
Right. And that's something we see a lot of, but I want to ask you, since you're on campus and you are Gen Z, have you seen any of this stuff in like firsthand, in person, and your friends and the community you're in at all?
I've definitely seen some questionable things, I will say, just like little offhand comments that don't really seem like such a big deal in the moment. I do believe it would help if we stopped hearing them or saying them, like when people are like, oh, he's a man, or oh, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And then just kind of like little things like that, like men are bad, men are bad. It sounds like a joke, but then I feel like y'all don't really enjoy hearing that. But then also, I don't like the same people who are saying that are also like, I'm just a girl, I'm just a girl. So I think we all have value, we're all equal. And I believe that it's so important that yes, as a woman, like I love that I have the opportunity to do anything I want because I'm literally a construction management major. I'm going to be working
Right.
in a male dominated environment. So it's amazing that I have the opportunity to do that, but I'm not going to go so extreme and now like turn on every guy.
No, I like that. And so yeah, you're in that construction field, which you're saying that there is a lot of guys in there. Do you feel like there is a difference in how you see things since you've been on the college campus in the actual classrooms where it's a lot of guys? Is there anything that seems unfair?
I personally haven't seen anything that's unfair. I've only ever heard people who are a little discouraging being like, oh, well, that's more of a man's job. But that hasn't really affected me because any classroom I'm in, my my male classmates are incredibly helpful, incredibly nice, and there's no mansplaining or any of that toxic culture. And I believe the difference between a man and a woman can really help more male dominated or female dominated areas. For example, I was bar backing one night at one of the college bars, and I didn't realize how strong men were. It was the
Mm.
most physically taxing thing I have ever done in my life, and I've only ever seen guys do it so easily. And then that was like a big like eye opener. And I was like, instead of being like, we need women in all of this or we need men in all of this and like no mixed match, I feel like if we just all collectively came together, then that's when we would finally see progress.
Yeah, and you're right. There is a biological difference. Like men and women are different. And that doesn't mean
Hmm.
that all men are better at everything. I think that some women and most women are better at things than men, and men are better at different things than women, and we kind of need each other, like you're saying. I like that. But
Hmm.
one thing I wanted to bring up is the gender pay gap or pay gap. Some people think it's a real thing. I happen to think it's more of a myth, but I want to get your perspective on it. What do you think? Do you think that there is a pay gap when it comes to jobs from women versus men?
I honestly would not be the person to be talking about that because I genuinely have no idea. I work in a restaurant where everyone makes the same like small amount of money and they're relying on their service to get their money and their tips. So I don't know what I haven't seen any of the pay gap, but I'm not in the right industry
Right.
to be like deciding whether or not that's a thing.
Yeah, I was researching a little bit. I saw an article and a few articles on it, but Fox Business made one, and this was a really good point that I didn't even think of before. But they said that many women have different priorities than men do when they're taking jobs. So they will value factors like job security and flexibility more than the salary because, you might want to have kids, you might want to do this and that as a woman. So I think that this kind of contributes to the differences in the money because of their values and what they look for in a job. And then the other thing
Right.
is like we're talking about the more dangerous jobs like construction, for example. You are probably a minority and being a woman, and I love that you're doing that. It's awesome. But there's a lot more men that want to do the more dangerous jobs, for example, that would give them a higher pay. So I think that's also a factor.
Correct. Yes. I agree with that completely.
Yeah, so another thing that I want to talk about, let's just ask you, do you want kids, Lauren?
I don't know. I should say yes, but I genuinely, at this moment, the thought of having kids is not appealing to me. And I have been more career oriented. I don't know if it's just because I'm like thinking about college and I'm currently in college, like going through all of that, if that's my main goal. But I'm not sure if I want kids.
Yeah, so you said, what makes you say you should say yes? What does that mean?
Well, I believe that, especially growing up Christian and surrounded by Christian people, people really like to push, like, get married young and then have kids young and be a stay-at-home mom, keep the house tidy and everything like that. But those aren't going to be my personal priorities. I do see the value in that. And when girls do have that dream, I'm not hating on them at all. But me personally, I don't think I would be the happiest in that situation. So it's kind of a weird, it's just more like a different opinion.
No, that makes sense, and I like that. That's what this show's about. I want to get the different perspectives. Everybody has their own views on things, so that's what the no filter thing's about.
Hmm.
But that brings me into the thing I was going to ask you next, and that's the family unit. Something I've talked about before on different shows. Having a father and a mother in the home. We see right now divorce rates are higher than ever, and a
Hmm.
lot of women in this new movement think that they don't need men. And so, what do you think about the family unit as a whole, having both a father and a mother? What are your thoughts on it?
I think it's so incredibly important that a child has their mom and their dad because it's so heartbreaking to see kids who either don't have both their parents or don't have one parent or have horrible relationships with their parents. Because I look at my parents as like my guiders. Anytime I have any situation where I'm like, I don't know, I'm calling my mom, I'm calling my dad, or I'm calling my brother. So that family unit is so important. And it's heartbreaking to see broken families grow up because I don't know how I would be successful without my two parents and my brother.
Yeah, how I was raised definitely impacts what I do now and how I think and how I act. And I think the women not needing men is not a good narrative to push. And I don't think it's good to say that men don't need women either. We need each other. I just want to read a few statistics on this about fatherless homes that I was seeing. 63% of teen suicides are from fatherless homes, which is huge.
Oh
I
my
didn't
God.
I didn't think about that ever. Um, 70% of juveniles in state institutions are from fatherless homes. That's a big number. So
Hmm.
seeing these, and even 85% of youths in prison are from fatherless homes. So seeing these numbers, does that give you any insight on the importance of a father? I know you said that you think your family really impacted how you were raised and stuff. Do you think that is something that we should be talking about more?
I 100% do. And I don't think it's so straightforward. I think a lot of our values and our morals like can be kind of subconsciously put into us because my dad's always like, you never listen to me. But I do listen to him because everything I've heard since I was born is from him or my mom mostly. So it's like, even though I'm not actively making the decision to do exactly what they're saying, like constantly being enforced like with their ways and their morals and everything has created a foundation in my life. So I think it's something that we should be talking about more often
Yeah.
because you can't argue with statistics.
Right. And I think it was designed that way for a reason because all the women in my life are much more in touch with their emotions than I am. They're a lot better with caring and they're more empathetic. I think that's a trait that God gave them and how he designed women to be there. Just like I know you say you don't know if you want kids, but a lot of women that do want kids, I think that is a need in that family. It's a need to have those emotional connections just as much
Mhm.
as the father is important to give them those values, to give them that discipline and that the character that they're raised with. So I think that's why both of them are important. And I want to bring something up that I don't know if you know about, but with this feminist movement, there is something new we're talking about now. As we're talking about the strong men and stuff and how they're biologically different, the U.S. Senate Armed Services Committee is talking about intending to require women to be registered for the selective service as part of the National Defense Authoritative Act or Authorization Act. So what do you think about women being required to go into the selective service?
I don't know. I don't know. I think that's kind of weird.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
I think we should all decide which route we want to go down. If you want to be like the more traditional, or if you want, I think you should have the choice.
yeah, me too. I think that it should be a choice completely. I just don't think that when it comes to being required, that there should be women that like when I have a daughter that's 18 years old one day, I don't want her to have to go to the army and be out there in the war because I don't think that's what she was made to do. And there are women that do want to do that, and they should have the choice. I think it should be up to them.
Yeah.
And men are stronger biologically,
Hmm.
and I think that's why it makes sense for men to go into those fields more. So
I agree. And I
yeah,
think the biological differences between men and women, like you can't pretend those don't exist. And the military is a no joke thing. If you're having, if there you have girls in there that have zero interest in being there and they're terrified and scared, they aren't going to be very helpful.
right.
So, but there are girls that they dream of that their whole life. And it's great that they have the opportunity to do that. We just need to stop going so far with things. We've made so much progress in all of this. So we should just like kind of let it be now. We don't need to like go to the extreme.
100%. And there's extremes on both sides, so I agree completely. We're in a good spot right now. I mean, do you think that men and women are equal?
Hmm. I do. I believe so. I believe we are different, but we are equal. Because I have, there's nothing that I've been told I couldn't do because I'm a woman by someone who actually makes decisions. It would only be people who have the more traditional mindsets, but I've never been stopped with anything
Yeah.
because I'm a girl.
So, Lauren, I know that me and you kind of have a faith background. I'm a Christian. Do you believe in the order of God? Do you know what that is?
What's the order of God? I think I might.
So, the order of God is basically God in Christ, Christ in man, man over woman, and woman over the children. And I'll give you a verse. 1 Corinthians 11:3 says, I want you to understand that Christ is the head of every man, and the man is the head of a woman, and then God is the head of Christ. Do you believe in that?
I do to an extent. I'm going to be completely honest. I think you need to have a godly man. Like everyone in that circle needs to be godly and following Christ truly. Because if you have a godly woman and she is being told what to do by a guy who says he's a Christian, but he
Right.
doesn't actually root himself in that, like I don't think he should be telling her how to live and what to do. But if every single person is following Jesus truly, then yes, I do believe in that, that
That's a good
you
point.
should submit to your husband, but he needs to be actually submitting to God.
That's good. That's really good. And I think one of the things that comes to my mind is when it talks about in the Bible, a man leaves his father and mother and is joined with his wife, and the two become one. And that's something that this generation, I feel like it's kind of bad to think like that. People think that we shouldn't be saying men and women should be together, but God created us to be with each other, and we need each other equally because life can't continue without both of the genders. What do you think about that in the family and making life, basically?
I think it's so exciting because like you two become like your own like powerhouse and you're gonna like do so much together. And then finally, like if you are raising a child, then you just get to like create something so special and so new. So I think it's amazing. And especially having like the female gender roles and the male gender roles. Like I want to see if I do have kids, I want to see my husband like showing my kid how to use tools and playing outside with them and I'll be like dressing them up and having fun
Right.
and then teaching them like my true core beliefs and how to be an empathetic person.
Thank you so much for coming on, Lauren. You had some great opinions. I love it. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. So bottom line, guys, is we need each other. We complete each other, and we're not complete without each other. So I don't like the narrative that men don't need women, that women don't need men. We need each other, and I do not think we're designed equally. We have different things to contribute. Men are different in different ways. We're better at different things than women are, and women are better at different things. So we got to come together and complete each other the way God designed it. So thank you guys for coming to this episode of No Filter Gen Z. If you want to see more, you can follow us on Instagram, on YouTube at No Filter Gen Z, and we'll see you guys next week.